I met Jesus during a breathing crisis. The near-death experience of Louise H. What happens when we die? Is there really a heaven? Does Jesus exist? Tonight, I'm going to share with you what happened to me the night I stopped breathing, the night I left my body, the night I met Jesus face to face. My name is Louise, and this is my near-death experience. I had been dealing with a breathing problem for a while. About once a week, I would wake up in the middle of the night, gasping for air. I'd sit up quickly and wait until I could breathe normally again. It became almost normal for me. But one night, everything changed. I woke up like before, struggling to catch my breath, but this time, it didn't get better. I gasped harder than usual. My wife was exhausted from her own sleep issues, so at first I didn't want to wake her. I thought it would pass, like it always did. But something felt wrong. Panic set in. I turned to the left to wake my wife, and that's when I heard it. A voice, a female voice, calm, gentle, unlike anything I'd ever heard before. Relax and let go, all is well. And in that moment, everything changed. I was both looking at my body and still in it. The panic disappeared completely. The voice I heard was metallic sounding, but still feminine. I can't really describe it because it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. 1 second, I was struggling to breathe. The next, I was watching myself. Then I heard the voice again, the exact same words. Relax and let go. All is well. This time, I could pinpoint where the voice was coming from. It came from the right corner of the room, behind my physical body. When I turned to look in that direction, I saw something incredible. A translucent, bluish, fluorescent, clear energy being. The energy being wasn't human-shaped. It was really hard to describe. As I turned further, looking behind me, I also saw a human-shaped being of light. And to the right of that being was a round-shaped light on the wall, like a portal. But before I could fully process what was happening, I was suddenly pulled. I went right through the energy being and found myself near the other being that was directly behind me. Now we were both looking down at my own body from what seemed to be ceiling height in the corner of the room. And here's where it gets strange. As I looked at myself, at my body lying there, I felt little to no connection to it. I didn't recognize it. I didn't understand why I was even observing it. I only sensed that the body was struggling, gasping for air. There was this other being next to me. I felt he was a friend, someone I could trust. Not recognizing myself, I asked, "What's wrong with it?" He replied, "He's trying to breathe." "Breathe? What is that?" I asked. He said something like, "The body needs to breathe in order to survive." I didn't feel fear or any heightened emotions, just curious, observing everything calmly. I actually felt a little bored, not knowing what I was doing there. At the moment I was thinking that, the being asked me, "Are you ready to go?" And I said, "Yes, I'm ready to go." I didn't know where we were going or who this being actually was. Before we left that earthly scene in my bedroom, I saw my body get wrapped in this bluish cocoon-like energy light, the same exact color of that bluish being I first saw. Then I was pulled out of that scene at an incredible speed, like being vacuumed up. And then suddenly, I was standing on a beach. This place was amazing. The water, the colors, the sand, it was all alive. Everything was moving together as if there was a breeze blowing onto it, but I didn't feel any wind. To me, it felt like a breeze coming in, creating something like music. Everything was moving to it, synchronized like a symphony. It was beautiful. I was looking at the sand, and I felt like I was part of it, one with the sand. I could see all of the sand and every grain of sand individually. Somehow, I could even talk to the sand, and the sand was communicating with me. They were asking me to come touch it and feel it. The same thing happened with the water. I was connected to it. The water was different, more substance, more solid, and I didn't get wet. That's the way I would describe it. The water was communicating with me as well, inviting me to come into it. So I did, and it felt like it was healing me. I felt the love from it. It was indescribable. There was no sun, but the whole place was bright and full of light. Blue skies, white clouds. It felt like heaven. So I turned to the being who was still with me and asked, "Is this heaven?" He said, "Yes, this is part of what humans call heaven." The question about God. Then I asked, "If this is heaven, where is God?" And he answered, "God is everywhere, all the time, and in everything." That answer didn't satisfy me. I didn't get it. This idea that God was everywhere and in everything all the time. Then this question came out of me, despite still not feeling connected to my physical life. If this is heaven, and if God is real, what religion should I be? He told me, "You can be a religious person if you like, but you don't have to be, because religion is of man, not of God." That made sense. So then I asked, if heaven is real and God is real, is Jesus real? And instantly, when I asked that, I was gone. No longer on the beach. I was inside a wooden cabin. Beautiful wood everywhere, like maple. I'm a woodworker, and I love wood, so I was admiring this wood that was so full of light and alive. I thought to myself, let me look at this wood. And when I thought that, I was right there, up close, looking at it. The wood transformed into vibrating thin strings of light, like glowing spider webs. All types of amazing colors running horizontally back and forth as if the lumber was alive. Then I backed up to where I was before, and this time I saw two enormous angels, or whatever you want to call them. They were massive beings, strong, all dressed in white. You could see their muscles. I'm 6'3", but these guys were intimidating. I would guess they were at least 30 feet tall. I didn't turn to look directly at them, but somehow I could see them. Then I saw a hand reach into the cabin. It was as big as the room, and it was also as big as the entire universe. I know that sounds impossible, but somehow I knew both at once. I don't know how to explain that. I could see the bare hand, a male hand, up to the wrist, then a fabric from the wrist to the elbow. The fabric had a band of gold near the wrist with simple, small symbols. The hand appeared normal. It moved down onto the floor and opened up. When the hand opened, a figure stepped out. The moment I saw the figure, I just knew exactly who it was. Even though the being was initially walking towards the wall, away from me, it was Jesus. Don't ask me how I knew this being was Jesus. I don't know how I knew, because I really didn't know anything about him or anything really specific about that religion. I came from a communist country where we couldn't discuss this. But I just knew it was him. And there was no doubt in my mind. As Jesus stepped out of the open hand, he took a couple steps forward away from me towards the wall. Then he turned right to walk towards a door frame. An opening, but no door. There was a white pedestal right in front of the doorway with an enormous, thick white book on it, maybe 3 feet wide. Everything was white, and there was this old-style feather quill pen on the pedestal on the right side of the book. Jesus picked up the quill pen with his right hand and began writing in the book. I was just watching, thinking in disbelief that this is Jesus in front of me. He just kept writing. And at some point I figured he's writing all the bad stuff I've done and he's about to send me to hell. Because I used to talk a lot of crap about Jesus. I was an atheist and didn't pay any attention to religion. But then, as soon as I thought, what is he writing? I was there, right on top of that book. He was writing, but I couldn't see any words. Everything was white. So it was as if he was writing with white ink, and I just couldn't see what was being written. Then I was back again where I was standing before, and this went on for what seemed like forever. Each time I kept thinking that these bad things were going to happen to me, he would pause, smile, or chuckle. I thought to myself, why is he laughing? Am I in that much trouble? At this point, he communicated to me that he could hear my thoughts. We were actually communicating directly, thought to thought. He eventually stopped writing and backed away. He turned to face me and took a few steps towards me, stopping maybe 6 feet away. He looked at me, and I get emotional when I remember this part because he said, "I heard you asking for me. So here I am. I've always been here with you, and you have always been here with me. We have always been here for you." He raised his hand and guided me to the corner of this room. Suddenly, a very long table appeared. I was on one end of it, with Jesus on the other side of the table. At the other end of the table, there were 3 other beings, one on Jesus' side of the table at the end, and 2 on my side of the table, again at the end of my side of the table. The one on the end of Jesus' side was a very tall, hooded being dressed all in white. He had one of those hoods that was tall and pointy, with the point extending upwards. Though I couldn't see this tall being's face, I could tell he had a long beard and a book in front of him. On the end of my side of the table, there were 2 beings. The one furthest from me had the same hood and a face that was blurred, so I couldn't make out his face at all. To his left, a 3rd being who was completely different, like a figure from ancient Greece or Rome. He wore a short white skirt-like tunic and had a bowl-cut hairstyle with white hair and a perfect circular bald spot. All 3 had their own books. But this last one stood up, holding his book, and walked toward me. As he got closer, I suddenly remembered I knew him. These are my friends. I knew all of them forever. Even though I've never seen them before, I understand now how unbelievable that may sound. As the Greek-looking man, my friend, approached, I felt like I was going to hug him. But he stopped a few feet away from me and turned to face Jesus. He was instantly in front of Jesus. The table at this point was not really there, or my focus was on this new scene. He showed Jesus his book, and they started talking. They looked at the book together, and I became anxious all over again. I wanted to see what they were looking at. As before, as soon as I thought that, I was instantly there beside them. But I couldn't hear what they were saying or see anything in the open book. My position returned to where I had been before, being near them. I was really nervous again, thinking I don't know what's going on here, and I'm probably about to get it. At some point, when they were finished, the being walked away. Jesus turned to me and just opened his arms. When he did that, wow! A brilliant, blinding light poured out of him. Pure love. And it just hit me in the chest like a freight train. It was pure love. This is emotional for me. It was overwhelming when he did that. No judgment, just compassion, just love. I felt like a little baby being held. I don't know what I was doing, maybe kneeling or whatever. But he reached down and pulled me right up and out of where I was at that point. And we just merged into each other. At that moment, I saw every detail of his face, every strand of hair. We became one. There are no words to the amount of love, peace, and joy he showed me. It felt like he was hugging a little infant. That's what it felt like. At that point, I felt like I knew him forever. There were no questions to ask, nothing to talk about. Like I just knew him, and he knew me completely. Now when the light hit me, a lot of things were removed from me. Mostly the fear. The fear was all gone, erased. My past, my guilt, my bad habits were gone too, as if they never existed. For example, I used to drink a lot for many years. After that moment, I never drank again. It's not like I wanted to quit or didn't want to drink. It was more as if that part of me never existed, like I never drank before. It was strange because I knew I used to drink a lot, but it was as if I never drank. Didn't know what it tasted like. Things like this. Now, I don't have a problem with people drinking around me, and I know how hard it is for people to stop drinking, but for me, that all got completely erased. But the most important thing that was taken away was the fear. When I think about it, everything negative is rooted in fear. And when the fear was gone, everything else disappears. To me, anything that is controlled by God is peace, joy, and love. But anything controlled by fear is negative, like hatred. I would say this loss of fear is related to my understanding that I am not my body. In that reality, outside of this physical world, I realize that we are not our physical selves. Our spirit is having a human experience, but we are not this body, or our thoughts, or our experiences. You can say that we are spirits created in the image of our Creator. After this experience and realizing all this, it's as if I'm a new person, like I'd been reset. Fear, anger, judgment, none of it lived in me anymore. It doesn't control me like it used to. I now enjoy life more and return to more of who I was meant to be and who I used to be in life. I became more loving, innocent, and childlike. After that, something happened, and I know Jesus and I had a conversation. But I don't remember it, and I don't think I was allowed to remember that. The next thing I do remember was walking out of the cabin with Jesus through the door frame. We turned to the left and stepped onto a stone pathway made of what looked like golden glass. It was alive with this light shining out. But it's so difficult to explain. Imagine a stone made of glass or crystal, and this light inside of it just shining outward and hitting everything. The funny thing is, it was all white, brilliant white. And still, Jesus was brighter than anything else. I mean, I don't know how many shades of white there can possibly be. But he was the brightest of the brightest white there. As we walked, I looked to the right side and saw a cabin. This person came out with a bucket of water to empty it, like they were just cleaning the house. As soon as I saw that, I remembered my wife, who is always cleaning, and the moment I thought of her, I was gone. Instantly, I was out of that place and was in my room looking at myself, but not from the ceiling, as if I was on the wall looking directly at my body that was still sitting there. 1 second, I was looking at it from the outside, and the next second, I was in my body looking out at the wall where I just was. On that wall, I see this huge opening, a portal or tunnel, going right through the wall. Unlike the one I described earlier, which was blurry, I could see this one clearly. I could look right through it. I saw the blue sky and the clouds, and Jesus was standing outside of that space in the physical room with me. But there were also two other beings still in the portal tunnel, one on the left and another on the right, further back into the tunnel. Jesus was standing there in front of me and said, "Remember, all that truly matters is love. Love is the only thing that's real." And these were his last words to me. Then the portal slowly got smaller and smaller until it closed up. The portal and Jesus were gone. And here I was, just sitting on my bed, feeling kind of silly now, because I was just staring at this plain wall, scanning it, waiting for it to open up again so I can get out of there. I still had no idea of who I really was or why I was there. It took months to adjust to this world again and who I was as Luis. For some time, I would just break down weeping, especially when I thought of Jesus. Sometimes I would just pull over my car until I could get it together. This physical world just didn't feel real anymore. Not like that one. Now, several years later, the biggest thing for me is I see the beauty of creation, the divine, in everything. Luis's experience teaches us something profound. He was an atheist, someone who talked negatively about Jesus. Yet when he died and asked for Jesus, Jesus appeared immediately, with no judgment, only pure love. Jesus told him, "I heard you asking for me. So here I am. I've always been here with you." Think about that. No matter what you've done, no matter what you believe right now, no matter how far you think you are from God, Luis's experience shows us that love is always there, waiting, without judgment. The most important message Jesus gave Luis was simple. All that truly matters is love. Love is the only thing that's real. Everything else? Fear, anger, guilt, judgment. Luis says all of that is rooted in fear. And when fear was removed by the light of pure love, everything negative disappeared. We are not our bodies. We are not our mistakes. We are spirits having a human experience, created in the image of our Creator. And that Creator, according to Luis, is pure love. Thank you for listening to Luis's near-death experience. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because the message is clear. No matter where you are in life, love is real. Heaven is real, and you are never alone.